Hello guys, this is Joshua Hawes. As you can tell by the title of the video, I'm doing my review on the movie Suicide Squad. Rather a very controversial superhero film. A lot of people really dislike this heavily, and without further ado, let's get into it. My thoughts on the film have changed since the last time I've watched it. I will say that from my last review. So let's start off with the good, and the biggest highlight is Margot Robbie's portrayal as the Joker. I was going to say Margot Robbie's portrayal as the Joker. Margot Robbie's portrayal of Harley Quinn, it is incredible. She knows the character to a T. She is incredibly good at this character. She is really good. She just understands Harley Quinn, and she is the biggest highlight from that. Makes this a really enjoyable thing because she's just really good as Harley Quinn. She just is. And despite everything else going on the plot and stuff, she remains the highlight of this film. So the other good is that Deadshot, played by Will Smith, is a pretty good character. You understand his intentions, his feelings, that he's a guy that has good guy traits, because all these guys are villains, but they have something. I mean, good. Harley Quinn and mainly Deadshot. He has some form of human face. He's not just like, you know, a evil person for the sake of being an evil person. He's got good to him, which I really like. The character, the final battle and action scene is a really good one that gets you invested in what the stakes are for the characters. The action's pretty good, and the premise is very interesting of getting these villains to come in and, you know, save the world out against their will. There's a very interesting plan for that if it was done to its potential, it could be great. As that I really did the keyword completely to its potential, because we're going to talk about the negatives, and the biggest negative is Joker. Not the performance. You don't get an idea of what Joker's like in this film. It's just, he's barely in it. He's in it for no more than 10 minutes. And for the trailer to act like he is the main villain, and he should have been the main villain, to have him just be a side character to everything else is going on is horrendous. And Enchantress is a villain. She has nothing special about her. We don't know her motives apart from humans used to worship her, now they don't. And she's mad. She's building a machine, even though she's a witch, and she's building some weird machine. Because it's a classic machine, shoots from the sky, crazy stuff happening. The stereotypical movie plot has probably been around since Ghostbusters. I don't know, of one building or one thing beaming up and causing change. Like, ever. It just feels so Ghostbusters, especially 2016. 2016 Ghostbusters, and this film came out in 2016, which, you know, the plot just of the villain just seems so over the top, and it would be much more interesting to have a villain Joker, and the Suicide Squad had to stop the Joker from, I don't know, blowing up Gotham City or something. So they stop him, and you can have Harley Quinn still go with him at the end if you want to, because they have that relationship. And it's just so messy in its plot. The characters are incredibly thin in terms of their backstory and their lore. Apart from Harley Quinn and Deadshot, there's not a lot the other characters get. Captain Boomerang has nothing. We don't know anything about him. There's this girl with the sword. We only hear of what happened to her, which is why she's the way she is, but we don't see. We don't get time to understand. There's a guy that gets killed off within a minute, which he was just there to show that, you know, this is to help raise the stakes. Killer Croc's in this film. He barely does anything. The Flame guy has an interesting premise and story, and I felt like for the most part it was portrayed well, but it just didn't. They didn't really click into that till near the end. They didn't have that be a constant thing, and Another huge issue I'm going to talk about is the fact they try to make at the end that these are friends, they're like family. I'm like, they were not playing. The only people that are like friends are Harley Quinn and Deadshot. That's all. That's the only relationship that really gets established throughout this show. And her character, I forget her name, she's a very interesting character. That is a positive, I will say that she is a very interesting character. But yeah, the characters just don't have anything to them. And they try and make you believe that these guys are friends when the movie only built some sort of relationship between Will Smith's Deadshot and Harley Quinn. And I think the biggest flaw of this film is the fact that it feels like 50 million music videos. Like, apparently this was a huge change in editing, because basically I believe the director is I can't remember his name. Production. David Ayer. Yeah, David Ayer. He had his own interpretation of the film, but Warner Brothers decided to change it when they saw how well the trailer did with the pop culture songs in the background, and how incredible that trailer is, because it is incredible, and just decide, we're gonna edit this a lot and just make this multiple music videos, and we just have loads of pop culture music and think that works. Spoiler alert, it doesn't. It feels so forced and just like, why is this here? It just felt like they wanted to cram in the popular music because they felt like that would make the movie good, because it was good in the trailer. It suited the trailer, but you can't have it just in random scenes in the movie, and it doesn't make any blooming sense as to why. Like, why would we want 50 out of place music because it's popular? Like, it just doesn't work, and it doesn't really build to a sequel, and it builds towards Justice League, which we'll get to when we get to. And there are some good things that I think the potential of this plot is great. The reason this is happening is because they're worried, because Superman, if you know, for what happened in the last film with Superman, this is putting this world at a large, like a huge, like, disadvantage of fear, like what's gonna happen, and they have to do this. Which overall, this is a very interesting plot. Some of the scenes are really good. Some of the characters perform well and work well with each other. But the story, which apparently David only had 6 weeks to write this. They only had 6 weeks to write the script. Changing of the film to have 50 million pop culture songs, to think that's what made it cool. It only worked for the trailer. Not having the Joker to be a villain, but having Enchantress just born. They're like, I don't get. It's so much simpler and easier and more effective to have Joker be the villain and have the main part of that film be the relationship between Joker and Harley. And that could have been so much more interesting, because they rush over that story that a really interesting story between two. It's just, this film annoys me so much because there's so much I like about this. There's not necessarily loads, but there's quite a bit that I like to film. The potential of this film is out of this world. It is so good in terms of its potential. But instead, they just change all this stuff up. As we're going to learn with Justice League, let the directors do their thing. If you don't, then the movie becomes a garbage. You try and change it from the director's vision to be Warner Brothers' vision, and you know, it just doesn't work. Overall, this is a passable film. I would give it 6 out of 10. It's fine, but it's not one of those films that I'm gonna rewatch, and I think it's probably the worst film, so at least as I'm going through these films. Definitely the worst one by far, but probably one of the worst in the DCEU. It's a decent, it's passable, but compared to the potential of a film like this has, it falls flat completely. So, overall, my thought, it's a 6 out of 10. It's just fine. It's passable. I can deal with it. But it's by no means a film I am going to rewatch if by itself, unless I'm doing one of those things where I'm going through the DCEU. Unless it's one of those things, there is no reason whatsoever why I would watch this film. It's decent, but there's nothing to inspire me back and that's why I'm so looking forward to the new Suicide Squad movie, because that's coming out later this year. Because it feels like what this movie should have been, a fun adventure, and it uses that. It seems like it's gonna use that premise to perfection. Because it's such an interesting premise with loads of potential, and this film squandered it. So I'm giving it a 6 out of 10. Maybe I'm being a bit generous. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. Something went off downstairs or something. I hope you enjoyed this video. I think that's a fire alarm. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye, guys.